It's great to have you here for today's News Moto. Thanks so much for watching our videos. 100% of the money we earn from YouTube goes to charities here in Cambodia, and you are helping us earn this money just by watching. In the description of our videos, you can see how much we've earned from YouTube each month and which charities we've supported. There are links to those charities in case you are interested in supporting them yourself. We're also on Instagram. If you're interested in following us over there, please do. It's time to get started with this week's news. Today is Wednesday, the 19th of January 2022. Let's start today's News Moto by checking what has changed since last week's FAQs. Nothing. We'll just do a quick rundown anyway. Land borders still closed, no visas on arrival yet. Tourist visas are available online through the official government site. They're valid for 30 days and can be extended once in country, giving a total of 60 days. If you're vaccinated, you can enter Cambodia without quarantine. ASEAN passport holders don't need a visa. But there are time limits for how long you can stay, I believe. You don't need to pay a deposit on entry. Fort insurance is not required, but it is recommended. Get it. And for the one that drew 99% of the comments on last week's News Moto, if someone on your flight tests positive, you'll be required to isolate. I think it's worth spending a few moments clarifying this one, because so many people are obviously interested. If you've already left the airport, you'll be contacted and told to isolate where you are for a certain number of days. If you're still at the airport, you'll be told to make your way to your final destination and then isolate there for a certain number of days. I'm saying a certain number of days because I initially believed this to be 14, but there have been reports of requests for people to isolate for just 7 days. Maybe it depends where you were seated on the plane. Maybe your fate is determined by a spinning prize wheel. Who knows? Anyway, this is not the same as quarantine. It's not managed or regulated by the government, and the location where you undertake the isolation is of your choosing. If you test positive on arrival in Cambodia, then you have a much bigger problem and you will have much more things to worry about. Go to the Cambodia Visa and Work Permit group and read about people's experiences for yourself. Knowledge is power. Read as much as you can and check again for changes and updates to procedures when your flight is close. Hope for the best but plan for the worst. Get insurance. Once you're here and you're roaming freely in the kingdom, you should be aware that the Ministry of Tourism has issued a document outlining rules for international tourists entering Cambodia during the endemic phase. These rules clarify what international tourists need to do while they're in Cambodia. The Ministry of Tourism has released a chart with 19 easy-to-follow subcategories. Within those categories are the rules that apply to each particular situation. I'll outline a selection of the more notable items here. Categories 2, 3 and 4 relate to transport, hotels and eateries respectively. All three of these mention that tourists have to be vaccinated, wear a mask, have the temperature taken and maintain physical distance at all times. Number 4 states that tourists wanting to use massage and spa services must also abide by the same rules and must also book ahead. Number 7 relates to those attending conferences in Cambodia. Restrictions apply, particularly in terms of venue capacity. Getting down to numbers 11 and 12, and they give the rules for nightclubs, karaoke and beer gardens. It looks like you're not getting into these establishments without proof of vaccination. Golfers will be interested in number 16, which limits the number of caddies for each person to just one. Does anyone ever have multiple caddies? Let me know if you're a multi-caddy kind of tourist. I guess the takeaway from this is that the government is making it very clear that unvaccinated visitors from other countries can enter, but they will be very restricted in what they are able to do and where they are able to go. At the end of the document, you can find a list of the fines and penalties associated with breaking these rules. Escapes from quarantine will cost the offender anywhere from $250 to $2,500. They will also get jail time of between 6 months and 3 years if their escape results in the infection of others. Avoiding COVID treatment or escaping from a treatment venue will be dealt with strongly. These offences are punishable by imprisonment from 1 to 5 years and a fine from $1,225 to $4,900. If your actions lead to the infections of others, the jail time increases to 5 to 10 years. There are also fines for not wearing a mask and not practicing physical distancing. You should definitely read all of this information for yourself, and of course the link will be in the comments. The Omicron variant is spreading quickly around the world, and next door in Thailand there are very high levels of the variant being discovered. Cambodia has now recorded 406 cases of Omicron, 326 imported and 80 in the community. But due to reduced COVID testing and limited resources to detect the variant, the real numbers could be considerably more. In an effort to contain the Omicron strain, the Ministry of Health is looking into the possibility of requiring proof of booster shot status before allowing quarantine-free entry into Cambodia. The Health Ministry spokesman stated that Ministry is considering implementing an additional quarantine-free entry requirement that all arrivals from other countries must have had booster shots after a minimum of 6 months has passed from the time they received their second dose. However, he added that it will be difficult to implement the booster shot entry requirement in the near future because some countries haven't established a booster shot regime yet. This is a long way from being a requirement, so don't worry too much about it at this stage. Meanwhile, the push for people to get booster shots within Cambodia has taken on more urgency in the capital, with the Phnom Penh City Hall imposing stricter conditions for those who wish to enter public or private institutions or businesses. Phnom Penh's governor issued a directive requiring people to show their vaccination cards before being allowed to enter. Entry will be refused for those who have not had a booster shot and 6 months have passed since they were given their second dose. Phnom Penh Deputy Governor has also stated that all private and public institutions must step up their inspection of COVID-19 vaccination cards before allowing anyone in if the second dose was taken more than 6 months earlier. He said that staff who have not had their booster shots after 6 months should be warned that they risk being fired. All businesses such as restaurants, eateries, clubs, KTVs, malls and marts must also require their clients to present the vaccination card before entry. If the status is over 6 months from the second dose, they must not be allowed inside. Kep's provincial governor also stated that the officials are implementing the same measures as Phnom Penh, and even tourists from another province or city who come to chill out in Kep will not be allowed entry if the status of vaccination is over 6 months from the second dose. Prime Minister Hun Sen received his second booster or fourth dose on the 14th of January. The PM called on the people to get vaccinated, stating, "Today, my wife and I were vaccinated to prevent COVID-19. There's no better option than vaccination combined with the 3 do's and the 3 don'ts." In other virus-related news, Cambodia has temporarily stopped the import of pigs from its neighbours Thailand and Vietnam due to an outbreak of African swine fever. According to local Thai media, scientists discovered cases of the disease near Bangkok, raising concerns for breeders across the country. A Ministry of Agriculture spokesman said Cambodia is taking strict measures to test all imported pigs from those countries with cases of this virus, but now we have totally banned importing them. If we find that pork supply levels in the country get too low, then we will be able to import some, but strenuous checks will be made at the border. Cambodia used to import 8,000 to 9,000 pigs per day from Thailand and Vietnam. Unfortunately, this has resulted in high pork prices across the country. Something that hasn't been high for the last 3 years is the Mekong River. The river has been experiencing its lowest levels in the last 60 years. Also, to make matters worse, 2020 was the lower Mekong Basin's driest year. Rainfall was below normal levels in 11 out of the 12 months. The low water level has caused at least a 50% decline in fish catches. A report suggested several ways to help fix this problem, such as establishing a joint notification mechanism on unusual water level fluctuations, and in future exploring the coordinated operation management of reservoirs and hydropower dams. The 6 Mekong River countries should examine options to build more storage to manage pressing drought and flood conditions. Hopefully this can be fixed as millions of people's lives depend on that river system. Do some good news in 2021. Authorities recorded a drop in crime rate and the number of traffic offences compared to the previous year in the capital city. According to the council president, in 2021, there were 328 criminal cases compared to 2020's 654 cases. Police were able to crack 311 cases, which is equal to 94.81%. And we do love a percent. The number of major traffic accidents decreased to 564, which represents just over half of the accidents that took place in 2020. Maybe these numbers were reduced due to lockdown or the huge reduction of foreigners in the country. Now to a beautifully laid out table of shame. We didn't have one for you last week, but this one makes up for the drought. A 34-year-old man was arrested by the police in Praya Sihanouk province after he was found to be in possession of 24 packets of crystal methamphetamine and a pistol. They also seized 2 mobile phones, a weighing scale and a motorcycle. Not a huge bust, but it's a start. Cambodia has snagged 2nd place in Asia and 14th in the world as best country for retirees to retire in 2022. This is according to a recent report in the International Living website. The website placed Thailand in the top spot in Asia and 11th in the world. Globally, Panama is ranked 1st, Costa Rica is 2nd and Mexico is 3rd. These are followed by Ecuador, Colombia, France, Malta, Spain, Uruguay, Ireland and Peru. Cambodia has also been ranked as one of the 10 best destinations for tourism over the next 10 years, according to the US-based Forbes magazine. And Australia was placed last for anyone who is unvaccinated from Serbia. Well, that's game, set and match for us. That brings us to the end of this week's news. You're now up to date with all of the most important events in the kingdom. Thank you so much for watching. Links to the stories mentioned above will be in the pinned comment, and in the description of this video there are links to other channels making content about Cambodia, so be sure to check those out. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you in our next video.